Okay, well, I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Ad hoc Grant Search Committee for May 12th, 2021 at about 2:32 p.m. We are still meeting via Zoom, given the continuing saga of COVID. Oh, here comes Joan. Hold on. And so we will still be meeting by Zoom for the foreseeable future. Maybe we'll at some point get to be able to do it outdoors, but when we have documents to review, that's pretty hard to do. So we have the members of the grant committee. We have Kate Swistek Rooks, Chris Fowles, Diana Fetterman cannot make it today. Ed Gibson should be joining us shortly. And then as guests, we have Randall Kemp, Ian Illingsworth, and Joan Linehan. So greetings, everybody. Thank you, thank you. I'm going to keep an eye out for Ed, but we'll just kind of jump in here. In terms of our agenda, I don't see anybody waiting as open time for the public, so we will scoot over that. And as I had promised, we would do the shared spaces streets discussion first. If you all recall, we had been talking about that. I did send a note out to both Eliza and John Lumbra and Matt, and I didn't get a comment back from anybody. So I don't know if it's because it came from my town email and it might have gone to their junk mail or what, but anyway, we may, if we need to continue, we'll definitely be sure that they are aware of it the next time around. So as you saw, I forwarded the little email we got back from the person that's, I guess, one of the people in charge of the program at Mass DOT, because when we left our discussion last week, we had talked about probably the idea of a feasibility study being the best way to approach this, given the time frame and how much needed to get done in a very short amount of time with this grant. And so I thought, before we go down a rabbit hole here, let's just check and make sure that that's even possible. And her answer, the way I read it, is that not by itself, at least, a feasibility study is not eligible as one of the activities or the activity of the grant, which I was worried about, but I kind of surprised me at the same time, because when you've got something this short a time frame, I just don't know how they expect it to be done. So I don't know. She's more than willing to be. She couldn't be on the Zoom. I asked her to come on the Zoom if she had time, and she couldn't make it today, but she's willing to take any other questions and a phone call. So if we have some specific questions to ask her, I would like to still pursue that, and or look at a second idea. I know, Randall, you had talked about the sidewalks from High Street on down toward Town Hall area, or whichever way. And I don't know, it still seems like an opportunity we shouldn't pass up if we can avoid it, but let me turn it over to you guys and see what you think.
Yeah, when I read your email, I just talked to Paul Fergal, the engineer we had engaged, and he was suggesting he had read the grant guidance and had come to a similar conclusion. Mm-hmm. So it seems like that's a non-starter. I still think it is an opportunity that we continue to look for grants that we might be able to utilize for something like that. Because I don't think the problem with the school is getting any better.
Right. Well, if you look at the language, I don't know if anybody has it handy, but she did say that it could be done as a pilot, right? So it's kind of interesting the way she worded this. Let me just pull it up right here, somewhere here, somewhere. I lost it here. So no, feasibility studies are not an eligible expense under the program. However, temporary or pilot improvements are eligible. So I didn't know if we could pursue something as a pilot study for a couple of months that would then eventually feed into some other grant for a feasibility study, a more in-depth feasibility study, or a temporary action to try it out, pilot study. That did seem to be allowable from the way I read her response.
I guess I have to figure out how we could go about doing that. Because my understanding, if we wanted to change the traffic pattern, we would have to have engineering approval and then go to Mass DOT in order to get their blessing. And then there's a lot, I know from a previous traffic change I did, you have to put up signs for a specific amount of time indicating you're changing the traffic pattern. It seems like it might be a uphill struggle to get this done for a temporary basis, maybe. Ian?
I don't know if we'd be able to on a temporary basis because just the time frame in and of itself. I think we'd have to have some public hearings. I just within the time the actual grant application is due.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because it would be nice if that award encompassed the study, because that could really get us rolling. And then the next time around, we could actually try to perform the actual, if it's feasible, to perform the actual change.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's really a kind of a crazy situation there.
Well, even switching gears, we could still entertain the sidewalk.
I think so, yeah.
So maybe we pursue that, a sidewalk from High Street to Pomeroy Meadow, at least, to expand our network we've got. Fold in improving the sidewalk down to Town Hall. I'm not sure.
I don't think the grant covers the improvement of sidewalks.
No. What about the design?
Well, let me pull it up. Let me just share this one document here, guys. Hold on.
Because it sounds like if we can get design for something, there may be opportunities in the future for shovel-ready projects.
Yeah. So this one, this is under that category of the safe streets and paths. So the very first part here is what we had looked at regarding the street reconfiguration. Oops, I got this in here twice. Never mind, but that's okay. Oh, here comes Eliza. Okay. All right. Let me just wait till she comes in here. Hi, Eliza.
How are ya?
Good. Hi. Thanks for joining.
Sure.
I know you're busy and it's a crazy time of the day for you as well, right? So
it's Eliza, just so you know. I don't usually correct people, but I just
okay. I'm sorry. Well, thank you. Eliza. There we go.
It's
perfect.
Okay. It's okay. It's okay.
That's fine. Well, listen, let me just catch you up to speed just a little bit here. We had this a grant opportunity come toward us that is due very much at the end of the month, and we just learned about it pretty recently, but it's shared spaces in streets. And so one of the things we had talked about, especially with Randall and Ian, was the idea of possibly looking at a reconfiguration of the pickup line at Norris, which has been an up and down issue, I know, over time.
Yep.
And the idea maybe of rerouting things and even going to make Gun Road Extension a one-way street.
Yeah.
From College Highway up to the school and rerouting the traffic. So
Okay.
that's the kind of thing we were chatting about and just brainstorming about. And
Great.
so the idea, though, is that this grant has got to be it's got to be applied for by the end of the month, and then it's got to be done by December. So it's a very short time frame. And from what Randall's saying, anything leading out onto Route 10, we've got to have Mass DOT be involved in to even make that change, right, Randall, of the one-way direction possibility, let alone public hearings. Yeah. Let alone public hearings to certainly let the people on Gun Road Extension know about this, let alone the general public, the school, the parents, et cetera, et cetera. So we were concerned that all of that couldn't get done in a short amount of time. So we were looking with the idea of a feasibility study first. And when we queried the folks at the grant program, they came back and said a feasibility study is not eligible. but a temporary or pilot exercise could be. But we're just thinking that we don't even have the right amount of time to make all of that happen in literally a 2-week deadline. So we may be coming right up against a brick wall right now.
Right.
But we wanted to let you know that we were trying to think about that as an idea and not have you, be surprised somewhere
No,
along the
yeah.
line of hearing about it.
Okay.
So just maybe while you're on, and you won't have to, we'll try to see if we can come up with another idea instead that might fit. But while you have had the time to join us, if you wanted to just give your 2 cents worth on that, and any thoughts about the need to get that done somehow, maybe through some other kind of funding.
So I guess I know that there was a study done a few years ago. I think Ian was here when that was done, and the suggestion from that study was to pave the, did you guys talk about that?
Yes.
Pave the lawn to the right of the school to pull the traffic off of the street and to park, as, we use that access road around the building. We try to pull the cars off the street earlier and earlier to try, but we don't have enough room. There's too many cars. They go in through the access road and all the way around the back of the school to Gun Road Extension. And that line of cars is still on Pomeroy Meadow Road,
Yeah.
right? So now you, correct me if I'm wrong, are talking about making Gun Road Extension a one-way coming up from College Highway. And then is it the cars or the buses, like what the buses, I guess we would decide if the buses are still coming in the front of the school, and then are the cars coming in the back?
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty early in the planning stages for this. Obviously, we would have had to get an engineer to approve it, but our thought was cars would line up on Gun Road Extension, because then you'd have room to have one lane of cars just waiting in line to pick up.
Right.
And then, another lane where traffic could move freely. But we didn't really get too far. We had some conceptual stuff, but
Yeah.
none of us are traffic engineers. So
No, I know. And we talked about possibly rerouting traffic at one point to do that, but I think the problem is the cars are now going to exit onto Pomeroy Meadow, and the buses are coming in the bus loop off of Pomeroy Meadow. You know?
well, they're exiting. Some of the traffic's exiting onto Pomeroy Meadow now anyway, after they pick up the kids. I came through there at that time yesterday, and it was interesting.
The cars or the buses?
The cars, the buses, I don't think it pulled out yet.
So the cars are not in the bus loop though. The cars are coming from Gun Road Extension and getting onto Pomeroy Meadow?
Right. But what
Right.
I'm saying, the cars come around the back of the school, and then they either go towards Route 10 or out towards Pomeroy Meadow. So they're
Right.
still exiting onto Pomeroy Meadow. The idea would be that instead of having the cars go behind the school,
Yeah.
or maybe they do, but even a simpler solution, the sidewalk extends all the way to Gun Road Extension. That could be where people pick up. If you can imagine what I'm saying.
Okay,
And they wouldn't even have to drive into the school.
right. But other traffic would not be able to come up Gun Road Extension during dismissal time?
Yes, they would. They would be on the other side of the line of traffic, because it would only be one way.
That makes me nervous.
Mhm.
I'm
Well, it
not
all
trying to
I'm
put,
nervous. I mean,
I know.
I was coming through with a loader yesterday. We had a tree down on Wolcott, and we came through at the time when the cars were going in.
yeah,
There were cars completely over the yellow line coming right towards me,
I know,
not thinking twice that
know.
they were on
No,
the
I know
wrong
it.
side of the road.
And I know it's a problem, and I think that, together, hopefully, everybody, we can solve it, but the first thing that I was saying was, so you're saying cars come up Gun Road Extension and not turn into the school, and that's totally fine.
Or
the-
they could, but I mean, I know you've already got congestion. Like if we routed them out behind the school and into the bus loop, then they'd either be exiting the wrong way out of the bus loop, or the
Right.
buses would have to be gone, you know. it's
That's
just-
what I was saying. Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, I'm sure there's a more elegant solution, and that's what we
Yeah.
were looking for.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause
It's
we
so
also have a
hard.
parking problem at the school too, like when there's functions.
Right.
It'd be
Mhm.
nice if we could find a solution that fixed all of the problems,
I know.
but
Yep.
maybe not with this grant round, it sounds
Yeah.
like.
I know. How much is this grant actually? Like up to how much?
I
Okay.
think it depends. I think
Yeah.
if you could do a short project, it was up to $200,000.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So it was, yeah, really depending on the scope of the project, pretty much.
But our scope doesn't seem to fit what they're looking
Yeah.
for to fund,
As
unfortunately.
in calling it a feasibility study, which I think, like we say, we would definitely have to do something that would include, public hearings as well as, or discussion periods, whatever you want to call them. And then something with Mass DOT or on Route 10. So our timing is kind of screwy. So a feasibility study seems the most appropriate thing to do. So while we're all here, what about, and Randall, you know it because you've been on the committee, what about CPC funds under undesignated for a feasibility study?
That's interesting. Have to bounce that off Virginia.
Okay, just
I
as a
guess
thought.
just
Yeah,
how we would frame it under the community preservation header.
yeah. Well, I didn't know how with that undesignated account, right? Because you've got historic, you've got the other accounts, open space, etc. But undesignated, I thought had a bit more flexibility, but I guess I don't know that for sure.
I think it's worth talking to Virginia about.
Yeah, at least to just see if there's anything there, and if not, we'll just keep our eyes out for other possible sources. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thanks. I mean, I think that's all we wanted to at least just get you in the loop, literally,
Yeah, I know.
and just let you know that we were kind of, thinking about this.
Yeah.
And if
And I
you've
know,
got-
and I appreciate that you're all talking about it and that you can see, the big picture. And then I feel like sometimes I have to think about, what side of the car are we asking kids to get into while other cars are driving by? Like, those are the crazy things that I think of. And,
yeah,
right now we have preschool parking on Gun Road Extension where we put signs up and ask parents, please don't park here, because preschool kids can't get in and out of the car by themselves in that car line, or else they hold up the line, right? Mom has to get out of the car, unbuckle put the kid in the seat, buckle them up. So we ask preschool parents to only park there. So we would lose those spots if we
Yeah.
did this. So
gotcha.
these are just other things I think about. And I don't want you to
Yep.
think for 1 second that I'm not on board for change, because I totally am.
Yeah. No, but I think the real, in-person, view of what happens in actuality is
Yeah.
you've got that perspective. So that's that's really clear. So if we manage to move anywhere further with this idea, we'll definitely be sure that you're in the loop on this and see
Yeah.
how we can, further refine our thoughts. But this was just an initial brainstorming, and even though we had the idea, it doesn't seem like it's going to fit their criteria for right now.
Right.
So I think we are kind of at a standstill on that, very unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I think, we can check, and Randall, would you mind just reaching out to Virginia for the heck of it and see what she says? And then
Sure.
if not, we'll just keep our eye out for other appropriate sources, maybe, that we could do that, because it does seem like a feasibility engineering study, whatever we wanted to call it, would probably be the first kind of thing that would really need to be done to really nail anything down.
Do you want me to, so you're talking about a feasibility study with the idea that you have now, right?
Well,
The-
something along that. It wouldn't have to be that, but I mean, a feasibility study to determine the options. Maybe there's a couple of different options. Yeah.
So I know I have somewhere the feasibility study that was done about 4 or 5 years ago with the only option that they felt was viable. I mean, these were engineers, right? It was like $5,000 that we paid to have
Uh-huh.
done, the town paid to have done.
Okay.
I know I have those results somewhere.
I
and
sent- I sent it to the committee already.
Oh, you
So
did? Okay.
basically what I think is the case, and I think Ian agrees with me, that may have worked when we had a lower volume of cars on Pomeroy Meadow, but
Mhm.
now we're out to Route 10. So I don't even think paving in front of the school would take care of the problem. I just think there's too many cars there. So you'd
But are
still have a
there
line
only
on
cars
Pomeroy
there?
Meadow. It would just
Are
be
there
maybe a
only
little
cars
shorter.
there now this year because of COVID? And
What's
parents
that?
don't- Are there only cars there this year all the way down to all the way down to College Highway because parents don't want to put their kids on the bus because of COVID? Like
That's my supposition, but I don't have anything to back that up.
Also, Eliza, it's also multifaceted. We're also considering the dangerousness of cars pulling out of Gun Road Extension onto Route 10. And we
Okay.
also want to try to start increasing more safe ways for bicyclists and walkers. So
Okay,
if we were to change that into a one-way Gun Road Extension, we originally went that way maybe to find a solution to Pomeroy Meadow Road, but it also supported some other ideas that we had that, we'd like to
okay.
continue to create sidewalk or bike lanes,
Pedestrian friendly
safer avenues
accommodations.
for people to walk and ride.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So good. So, well, thanks for joining us briefly. And I think, like I said, once we figure out if there's any further way we can move this through some other program, we'll definitely circle back around to you. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Good. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
All right. You want me to leave now?
Well, you can stay if you want. We'll just continue on with other discussion, but I know you've got a busy day, so feel
Okay.
free.
Okay.
Lisa, one thing, Lisa,
Yeah.
so you feel very strongly about the cars for the safety of the children. The safest ways to have the cars go behind the building, correct? Versus getting picked up on Gun Road Extension and staying on Gun Road Extension.
Well, I quickly looked at some of the things you have written here on your shared screen about, raised, speed bumps and I don't know, I thought I saw
Mm-hmm.
other
This
things
is-
that kind of make it look pretty and would slow traffic down and would kind
Right.
of create a slower, that road is, cars fly up and fly down. I know you know that, Ian.
Mhm.
So for right now, the way it is right now, I feel like it wouldn't be safe for kids to be getting in on the
And now
parent
on Gun Road
side.
Extension. So you'd
Well,
want them,
Yeah,
as of right now, the way the road is, you'd want them to, even if it was a one-way, if there's no traffic calming elements to it, you'd want them to get picked up behind the school like you are
I
now.
think that pulls a lot of cars off the street. It might not pull them all off the street. I totally get that.
No, I'm making reference if Gun Road Extension ever were to become a one-way and we could make a lane exclusive for those cars, a pickup lane for those cars, for the parents.
But Ian, then it's going to be infeasible to route them around the school for them to come out the bus loop.
That's what I'm asking, Eliza. So you would want them to go behind the school so they get picked up at where they are getting picked up currently, right?
It's so hard. I don't want this all to be on me.
No.
Oh, no, I'm asking you so we can plan that way,
Yeah.
that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. And I think your argument about the preschool kids and the pickups, parents having to get out of the car and the kids can't get in the car by themselves. So having them get on the opposite side of the car where, other cars are coming up Gun Road, that would be, not a great idea. So
Yeah.
for that reason alone, going in the back side of the school seems to be, a more favorable idea,
Yeah.
but
Can you do both, Ian? Like, can you make Gun Road Extension a one-way and still have the cars go around the back? So,
Go the opposite direction though. Go the
Yeah.
opposite direction. So they'd have to come out onto Pomeroy Meadow Road. So they pick up at the double doors there and they go around the school by the playground and then out Pomeroy Meadow Road.
right. Yeah, they'd have to take a left turn only. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
mhm.
That's what I think sounds the best.
Would the
Just so when we
buses-
start planning, obviously we'll touch base with you more about this,
Yeah.
but your insight's obviously valuable to us because you're the
Yeah.
one putting these kids on the buses. So
Yeah.
in the car. So we want to make sure that whatever we plan is
And, you know, I don't really know the number of cars that are taking a right or the number of cars that are taking a left. And by making it only left and having to go out to Pomeroy Meadow, how much that will increase the traffic, you know, on Pomeroy Meadow with the buses exiting and the car, you know, I'm not an engineer, but, you know,
What I'm referring to is, let's say we made, let's just say this was an option, and Gun Road was a one-way, and you could only exit on Pomeroy Meadow Road. You come up from Route 10 onto Pomeroy. However, the pickup line would end or begin, if you would, right where the teachers are parking in the back, where you're loading the kids on right now into cars.
Yeah.
So from Gun Road Extension, they take a left into behind the school. You load them in, they go around the school, and then out on Pomeroy Meadow Road.
okay.
Out which way? The wrong way in the bus loop, or would the buses be there?
Or possibly a lane. A lane is a lot cheaper than a lane from that fire route, from the fire lane.
I see.
You know, have just a separate lane onto Pomeroy Meadow versus going through the bus loop.
Okay. But then at Pomeroy Meadow, would they have to turn only one way, or they could go both ways?
Well, they could go either way they wanted to. You know, the traffic, the hazard there is not so much the volume of the traffic, it's the volume of the parked cars with the traffic.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha. Understood.
So now we would be loading kids into the car, because we're gonna try to pull them off of Gun Road Extension and around the back of the building and load them over by the preschool, right? 'Cause you're gonna,
No, they would all be parked on Gun Road Extension.
okay.
And then you do it as you would right now. As soon as you open the line, they just
Okay.
follow through.
Okay.
There'd be an actual lane, if you will. The concept is there'd be a lane, a parking lane for North School pickup parents
Okay.
on Gun Road Extension. And
Okay.
it'd just be a long train of cars on Gun Road Extension.
Right. And that road is long enough to hold the amount of cars now
Yes,
that goes all the way to Gun Road to
the Route 10.
Route 10.
Yeah,
And then
Okay, all right.
plenty long enough. Okay.
And
That
you
sounds
said
good.
they would accept a pilot, so you could always try a pilot.
Yeah, it's just that I think in order to do the pilot, Joan, that we'd have to do some public hearings and stuff like that, which we just, in 2 weeks' time, I don't think we'd have time for. That's our problem. For this round anyway. They may open it up later in the year too. They may do another round later on, because this sounded like they did one last fall at some point in time before we were even, you know, a grant committee. So we'll have to keep our eyes out. And that's a question I can call and ask them if they have another round coming as well. But good. But I think we'll probably have to look for some other funding, you know, besides this grant for this particular purpose. I think it's a great idea. I think we should very much keep it on the front burner and try to figure out how to move forward with it, but it's just not probably fitting this program at this point in time. Okay, given our limited time. So thanks very
All
much.
right, thank you so much. And now I have dismissal.
Okay, now I know you do. Very good.
All right, get those
Right.
cars off of
Okay.
Pomeroy Meadow.
I
We're
know.
good.
Yeah, right.
Right.
You are dismissed.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day. Thanks.
All right, take care. Thanks. Good. And Ed has joined us. Thanks, Ed. I'm sorry I didn't put in the phone number. I didn't even think about it. I tend to assume everybody's on their computers. Can't win.
Would have been easier for me to be on the phone today, but it
I
worked out.
know. I totally forgot. I'm sorry.
So can I ask a question? If we're not going to pursue that particular grant opportunity, I know that Randall, you had looked into the sidewalks off of 10 and 202, and the state basically said it was kind of up to the towns to maintain sidewalks. So if we're not going to pursue that other option, would it be worth looking into this for the sidewalks?
I don't know. I was trying to look. I keep trying to scroll on the document that's being shared, and it
Yeah.
always strikes me
You
that I
can't
can't.
scroll.
And when
I
try
can
to
scroll. You can't. I
minimize
can.
Are sidewalks
Yeah.
applicable?
I believe
It says
they
new
are.
or widened sidewalks. It says pedestrian and bike network facilities. I think that was the only other thing that we had talked about was whether or not there
Yeah,
were
right.
areas where there were no sidewalks, that sidewalks could be added
Yeah,
or
so this is it.
modified.
This is it right here. I'm the only one that can scroll because I'm sharing it, Randall. So here it is.
Oh, I realize that
Um,
after I try to scroll, it's just one of those things like when the power's
Yeah,
off and you
sorry.
try and turn the lights off and on and you do it like 12 times and you're like, oh yeah, the electricity's out.
I know. Yeah. So this would be though your idea of either town hall to High Street or High Street over to Pomeroy Meadow. So essentially in front of the cemetery, right?
Yeah.
On that side of the road.
It would
I
be very
think that would
easy
be
to
a great
support that.
option.
Yep. So Ian, what?
It would be very easy to support that in the language of the grant because that's within the 2-mile radius, walking radius of children for the busing.
And I would use those sidewalks to go to school for
So
my
not
son.
only is it for safe roads, but it's also a valuable access route for kids for busing.
Yeah.
Because a lot, we can't, there were several kids that were within that 2-mile radius of the busing that we allowed them to go on the buses because they had no safe route from High Street to Pomeroy Meadow because they'd have to walk on the grass or snowbanks in the winter, whatever it may be. So the only reason I say that is, that would be a very easy to articulate and support in a grant application, I'm sure.
Okay. So that would be brand new sidewalks, right? On from High Street to Pomeroy Meadow.
Yep.
Would you think about having this as just sort of a 2-phase thing and not including widening or improving the sidewalks down to Town Hall?
My impression when I read this grant is that you can't use it for the improvement of sidewalks.
But you can widen them.
You can widen them, but you can't use it for so that poor sidewalk between Town Hall up to High Street,
Yeah.
I don't think that qualifies under this grant. If I'm not, I may have misread it, but there was a part of this where it says ineligible funding. And I think it specifically said the resurfacing maybe of sidewalks, whatever. I'm not quite sure what the language is.
Yeah.
But maybe that could be another initiative, right? We use this to
Yeah.
create that one sidewalk and then say, well, the rest of the sidewalk is not accessible and in poor condition and we've, come this far. So we'd like to extend it
Yeah.
down to the town center.
Right.
And the Mass DOT engineer I got a hold of was supposed to get back to me about the repair of the existing sidewalk and has not returned
Okay.
my call.
Yeah,
Alright.
because I would think that the difference between resurfacing that sidewalk and making it wider to make it ADA accessible would be 2 different things. But that's me.
Mm-hmm.
Could we try, what do you guys think about applying for the High Street down to the corner of Pomeroy Meadow for this particular grant, since it is such a short timeline?
Yeah, I'd be down with that.
I think it's a great idea.
For design, you're talking, because I don't think we can't get it built in that time.
You don't think so? No?
Huh?
You don't think we can get it built by December?
No. By the time we engage I could be wrong, but by the time we engage in somebody to design it, the design is probably going to have to be blessed by DOT because it's in their right of way. And then we'd have to bid the project out. I can't see that happening this construction season.
No.
What do you think, Ed?
This is
I
not
mean-
a very long distance.
Oh,
It isn't, but I
And
know
it's a
you.
wide
I know you
area,
think I got a
plenty
lot
of-
of staff in my office, but we got a bridge reconstruction we're going to be doing this year. I'm expecting that to take a pretty considerable amount of my time.
Yeah, I would say that would be a long shot then if it had to be done by December.
Yeah.
I mean, if they let us do the design, it'd be nice to have a design ready that when some of this shovel ready project money comes up, that
Yeah.
we could say here.
Yeah. Well, tell you what, maybe I could reach out to Liz and just ask the woman who wrote to us and just say, look, what if we just had a design, part done for a portion of the sidewalk, but then to design and construct, right, from High Street to Pomeroy Meadow? Is that would be more possible, you think?
Maybe.
I think it's worth asking. Maybe she would say that we could design it by December 30, does all the work need to be done before December 31st, or could the design
Yeah.
phase be done? Or, maybe what she would recommend for us to apply for.
Yeah. All right, but I mean, if
Or would they entertain exemptions? Because I think I read an email right before I came out of this meeting. Ed, did you look at your email?
Yeah, right.
So maybe they would entertain extensions. If
extensions.
that's not what I said the first time. Extensions.
Oh, okay. But what you just went through, Randall, in terms of the design, the bidding, the whatever, why wouldn't that be the same time frame for High Street to Pomeroy Meadow? Why would that be any easier?
Well, me being the cynical person I am, I'm not saying it would be. But I think a lot of things lined up with the bridge, that it shouldn't have taken that long. People
Yeah.
used COVID as an excuse for a lot of things.
Right.
I'm obviously outside my wheelhouse here, but for a sidewalk, and there's obviously adequate space between the cemetery and Route 10. And there's actually a portion of the sidewalk where one should be connecting to on the southbound side of Pomeroy Meadow Road. There's that little section.
Mm-hmm.
Is the design really that does it have to be that thorough? I mean, you can't, and I'm asking these questions.
It doesn't seem like it should be, but I don't know.
I just think
I don't know the
you
answer.
can't get contractors to come out and get us an estimate or a quote.
I think that would be great. I mean, imagine if we could just maybe if it was possible to do it before the end of the year, and this grant could potentially cover the entire cost of the actual sidewalk.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can certainly check in. I'll give this person a call or an email, if not this afternoon, then tomorrow, and see. But in the application, we've got to do some basic things here. So I don't know if we've got to have some accessibility related things. So the ADA regs. What is the MAAB, guys?
Not an acronym I'm familiar with.
Must be Massachusetts something or other, but I don't know. ADA obviously would be there.
MAAB, Massachusetts.
It's like architectural regulation for accessibility.
Access Board. Here you go.
Yeah, architectural board, is that it?
Architectural Access Board. It enforces regulations designed to make public buildings accessible. So I'm not sure if that would particularly apply to this project.
Right. Okay, probably not, I would think, but anyway. Okay, so just scrolling down real quick. Yeah.
The width of the sidewalk has to be two wheelchairs, something like that.
Right, that's kind of what we did up in
4
front
feet.
of, 12 feet? Yeah,
Needs to be 4 feet.
4 feet. So that's basically what was done up in front of, right across from Subway and, that whole area there by Paisanos. That was the new sidewalk width, I'm assuming there, right?
That I believe is wider.
Oh,
that's 10 feet.
That's a multi-use lane. That's not necessarily, it's not considered a sidewalk.
Okay, multi-use versus a sidewalk, okay. So, all right.
Now, the only other thing is, one of the contentions that we may have is depending on where this sidewalk lies, it will be town-owned or state-owned. And if we can get it on the town-owned, then we don't have to contend with the state. Am I correct in that, Randall?
That sounds right. I think it
So-
would be, if you're gonna put it on.
And I think
not
there's
town-
concrete markers there where, on that side of the road where the state property ends, correct?
Yeah, and I think it's the fence line.
Oh, okay, figures, all right.
So I don't know. Yeah, you want to kind of retain the rural characteristic of the cemetery. So I wouldn't want to pave a sidewalk
In it.
inside the fence.
No. All right. Well, that's another thing we'd have to think about too, is do we need permission from the state at this point? How do we get their blessing?
Yeah, I gotta call them back and see if I can talk to the same or a different person and see if I get a better answer than I had last time.
Mm. And is there enough width between the current fence at the cemetery to the curbing? Is there enough 10 or 12-foot width there?
Oh, yeah, there's considerable distance.
Yeah, I think we could probably get a 5-foot sidewalk on. But that's again, whether they give us a waiver. The only reason the one in front of Cumbies is 10 feet wide is because the state wants to see 5-foot sidewalks on each side of the road. We had old shade trees on Route 10 on the subway side, some nice oak trees that they didn't want to disrupt, and I think maybe the water line was on that side as well. And so the accommodation was, or the solution was to put both 5-foot sidewalks on one side.
I see. Okay.
So I'm not sure if we would be compelled to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Between High and Pomeroy Meadow.
Yeah.
I'm not sure there's 10 feet there, but there's enough for a 5-foot sidewalk. The only part that might be tough, there's as you go northward, there's a grade challenge, and there's also a drop-in catch basin there. But that could probably be designed around.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one pinch point between a utility pole and a tree that may be challenging.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And would we have to also touch base with the Historical Commission?
Probably the Cemetery Commission as well,
Yep.
because I'm not sure how the deed's written for that, but it may be Cemetery Commission land, and presumably we'd need a, unless it was all on state property, the state right of way, we'd need construction easements or things like of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
which should be easy, but you never know.
Okay. And would any of this have to go to any kind of public hearing for any reason or not?
Not sure, but not sure. Maybe.
And then just one more, wrench in the plan here is who maintains the sidewalk?
Well, we would.
We would
Because
have to,
We're putting sidewalk in front of another town, or except Party Patrol. It would go across Party Patrol's land, so they would have to maintain that part.
Mm-hmm.
But we already maintain or plow the section from the town hall down to the chain link fence.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the town owns land down to that little dingle.
Mm-hmm.
The small sidewalk section for future sections of sidewalk that they put on the south side of Pomeroy Road is a 4-foot section. It's not a 5-foot section, just for FYI purposes. I'm looking at it through an aerial view right now. So it's the smaller scaled sidewalk that they planned for, I guess, when they put that there.
Okay.
Right around the Party Patrol area, you mean?
Yes, right in front of Party Patrol.
Mm-hmm. So basically continuing a 4 or 5 foot width down as far as High Street.
Right.
Okay. And what is that distance roughly? That's not even what?
That would be roughly,
Ooh, can I Google it before?
Quarter of a mile, anything? I don't know. How much?
yeah, I would say roughly, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, how about we, let me contact this person from the state and get any feedback from her about this idea. And then maybe, Randall, if you would reach out to Virginia and just find out about the school idea, feasibility study idea. And I could reach out to historical and cemetery, just to see if there's any preliminary thoughts there, I guess. Let's see what they had to say. So we don't know the land in front of the cemetery. We don't know who actually owns that. The strip in front of the fence.
I'd have to look at a state layout. I don't have a lot of the state roads. I don't even have all the town roads for layouts. To see how far it is in.
Yeah. So the town ownership of the cemetery though is basically at the fence line, the iron fence line.
That's my presumption, but that is not certain.
Yeah, okay. All right. All
The
righty.
cemetery may predate the layout of Route 10.
Quite possibly, yep, since it's been there forever. Yeah,
Looks like it's just under 1,000 feet too of sidewalk.
okay. Okay. All right, so guys, I think why don't we try to see if we could figure anything about that, and then maybe we've only got until the 30th, I think, to do an application, so we would definitely have to meet early next week to see if we have anything we could work on or start working on some things ahead of time. But we could, try to set a meeting for next Wednesday, the same thing, around the 19th, and continue this if we've got some positive things, unless anybody thought we needed to meet earlier than that. I guess it'll depend on what we find out from this person at the state, right? And anybody else.
Yeah. I guess
Okay.
I'm gonna have to reach out to an engineer to get a cost estimate
Yeah,
because they're gonna want to know how much.
right. Right. Okay. All right, so let's do a little bit of reaching out to the various persons that we need to, and maybe share that information ahead of time. Just send an email around, and then we'll determine if when it's needed to get together. Either, I mean, Wednesday works, but Tuesday we've got a select board meeting, so I'd rather not do it on Tuesday. Monday the 17th could be an option if we had to, but maybe the 17th, or sorry, the 19th would still be fine enough. But this is the application. I'll send this around so you can see. I downloaded the Word version of the application. A lot of these answers are just yes or no, yes or no. And then there's some things that we do have to adhere to. So like this demonstration of compliance with safety and accessibility regulations, not only would we have to say yes, we probably have to show that somehow in terms of whatever the design would be, right? So what Mass DOT owned infrastructure is integral to the proposed project, all that kind of stuff. So let me forward this part around to you guys so you can look at the different questions that I downloaded from the application online, okay? We'll need a map of some sort, some GIS coordinates, and a project estimate, obviously. But that would be
If you need
it.
pictures, I'll walk across the street. I'll get some pictures. I could do the GPS coordinates. Easy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, GPS might work. Yeah, sure. You're right. You're right next door there. So I'll send that around after the meeting so you all have an idea of what the application itself looks like. It's not terribly convoluted. It's just that we just have to be sure that we answer all the questions on it. But I will touch base with this person and see if she has any suggestions for us, okay? So good. Thank you all for that part. I think that's all we can talk about on the shared spaces and streets for today. Those seem to be the two ideas that we have that would be the most workable. And both, I think, are justifiable in their own right. It's just that one fits maybe a little bit better right now. The High Street to Palmer Meadow probably fits a little bit better than what the other one does right now. Okay. Good. Any other discussion about that particular grant? If not, we'll jump on to the next little topic here. No? Okay. Then with that, Joan, thanks for chiming in. Back on the Highland Valley grant. I know you said you were reaching out to Chesterfield and other towns. Have you made any headway with them?
Yeah, I had a very interesting conversation with the Southwick Council on Aging Director, and they get their nutrition funding from Highland Valley, but she says in the past, she's had to jump through hoops and they haven't been successful either in these smaller grants. So I don't feel so bad. I think, you know, they utilize their money in other directions, like nutrition, which we don't have a nutrition program.
Right.
So I'm still interested in either transportation or outreach or a combination of both. I don't have any feedback yet from Chesterfield, or I had a small conversation with Amy from Westhampton, and we were trying to expand transportation somehow, but not at $3,000 a year. That's not going to be feasible. I mean, it's a small grant.
Right.
I'm not sure if I want to go back and look at the outreach position, you know, maybe 2 or 3 hours a week. Were you able, did you get the denial letter? Did you see the?
I haven't seen it yet, but maybe
I saw
had
the
not
grant application.
form.
I saw
from
the one
last
from
time.
Southwick about the outreach worker that you sent, and I think, you know, if, were they
was
awarded that?
Southampton. That was the one that we did, Yvonne and I. That's the Southampton one that got denied.
We were denied, okay, and so which one was Southwick successful in getting? Were they, has anyone locally ever been awarded that grant?
Well, they give out 20 of them, but what we found is that they, you know, the ones that in the past have had it, they just redo it, you know, every 2 years they renew it. So it's hard to get your foot in the door. But they're looking for collaboration. They don't want to give Southampton a grant. They want to give Southampton and Easthampton, but Easthampton doesn't need us because they're a bigger city and they don't need Southampton.
And
So
what about
Westhampton?
I was gonna say Westhampton or Huntington or Montgomery, anybody in the surrounding areas?
So I actually, the woman in Huntington was the past COA director here, so I could reach out to her, Jennifer.
I'm just thinking of, and I don't know that Montgomery has much of a program at all, whereas Huntington's pretty active. I don't know. But just looking at, if we think that it's got to be a joint town kind of thing, if that really is what's going to get us the extra points, then that's probably, you know, worth at least finding out if they've got some ideas of what they're trying to do as well. I don't know. I mean,
Well,
this,
I'm willing to
go ahead.
get that going for this week. I think if I can nail that down this week, then that would, you know, it won't be difficult to fill it out once we figure out what we're requesting.
Yeah, okay. And I think you'll have some of the folks maybe from the COA board or the friends of the COA that might also help with filling it out, or?
So Renee Groden offered to help, but I know, you know, as you on the select board are very busy people. And there was 2 others. Yeah, Jim Palermo, he said he would help.
Okay, good.
So I think if I have another week, because I wasn't really prepared for today. So if I have another week, I think I can put more together and we can maybe, you know, have a guideline and then maybe expand on it.
Okay. Well, what might be good would be to at least have this application, you know, share it with some of those folks that might help you so they understand, and then maybe even, you know, start getting the information together, like, you know, how many seniors 60 and older in each of these communities. I mean, you know, just start gathering all the facts and figures so that when you're ready to pull it together, then that would be an easier, you know,
We've already shared the document.
Okay.
And I think from the last census, I'll have to check with Lucy, but I think we're closing on 2,000 over 60 in town.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. So I think that's, you know, the challenge is a lot of these answers don't look like they're terribly lengthy, what they're asking for, but that's the thing where you've got to be very convincing and very precise in what little they allow you to write, right? Because they knock you off in terms of the space that they allow you to do. But so to the extent that, and, you know, anybody can be starting to, you know, just even divvy it up and say, you know, you work on question 1 and 2, you work on 6 and 7, and just, you know, kind of delegate it a little bit. That might help at least get a first, you know, thought. Sometimes when you've got a grant application, everybody's like a bit overwhelmed because it looks like there's a lot to do. But to the extent you can make it in little tiny chunks with the 3 or 4 people that might help you, that would be probably an idea anyway, to move it along a little bit. But we certainly would be available
Salami method,
to help out.
a slice at a time.
Yeah, that's good.
I'll do
All right,
that.
well, we'll be available. So let's assume that right now we might try and meet again next Wednesday. So if you can get anything, you know, sort of ready by that point in time, and then we can take a look at it too with you. Okay.
That'd be great.
All right, that sounds good. Yep. All right, and like I say, I mean, maybe, you know, Huntington, Montgomery might be another choice if you're not hearing much from others. I mean, I think having contiguous communities would make the most sense. I mean, just because, you know, it would just be a lot easier. It makes a whole lot more a harder argument, I think, to make something like Southampton and Southwick. It's not exactly the easiest pairing, whereas some of the others might be. So, or Westhampton, like you said.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, whatever seems to work. So we'll let you do your outreach to the other COA directors and see what's happening. And if there's something that we can pull together jointly, that would be probably the best idea. All right.
All right. Thank
Great.
you.
All right. Good. All right. So next, Kate, you, I wanted to turn it over to you briefly, just in terms of the park grant for parks. Kate attended the Parks Commission meeting and also a webinar on the PARC grant, and talked about it with the Parks Commission at the last meeting. And then we had a meeting, she and Diana and I and a couple folks from the Parks Commission had a telcon yesterday with the person running the grant program from the state, and got some good information and comments there. So Kate, you're able to share your screen if you want to, or just talk it through a little bit what the Parks Commission is thinking about doing. Their grant is not due until mid-July, so there's time for them.
Yes.
And
And
it's
thankfully, it's not so much of a crunch.
Yeah.
So I think in the parks meeting, when we met, we were kind of brainstorming ideas about what might fit this grant criteria. And the 2 main ideas that got brought up was replacing the playground equipment and to maybe consider a splash pad, because the scoring criteria for this grant scores you higher for certain reasons, which is on page 18 of the application. It's kind of a long application. So we kind of all agreed that the playground equipment is in disrepair and would be a good idea. And they were considering replacing that equipment anyways through using CPA funds or through some other avenue. But one thing we acknowledged was the issue is, even if we get special accessible playground equipment, the entire park is not playground accessible. So we thought that might be kind of a challenge when applying for this grant. It's like, all right, well, you're going to get the special equipment that could be age friendly or could be accessible. The application's pretty extensive, but the scoring rubric, I think it's page 18. This particular project, either way, that wouldn't score really high because we're not in an environmental justice community. We are not in a block grant. We're not, you know, in a really ethnically diverse community. But she did when we met with Melissa yesterday, she gave us some really good tips, I thought, about how we should apply for this grant. And I took some notes. Let me just pull those up. If you want me to screen share, Chris, I can, or I can
Yep.
just kind of review the notes that we took
Sure. Let me,
And
let me,
I'll
just
share the ones that you kind of added to.
let me just ask one thing, because with Ed here, so Ed, we're not really designated as an MVP community yet, right?
Right.
No,
We're
Right.
not, okay. And have we not received a community development block grant in the past for something?
no.
We have not, okay. Okay, and then the only other criteria, we definitely have to have the completed open space plan. And that is fully complete and with the state? That's our criteria.
There's just one table that has to get additionally filled out, but the
Okay.
state does have the draft and has
Okay,
approved the draft.
okay.
I
Yeah,
think I think we'd be okay as long as it's approved, right? She said it had to be approved.
Right, well, that's if it's, yeah, but approved draft may not be the same as an approved final, but anyway, hopefully that
Well,
wouldn't take,
that's something we definitely need to figure out,
Yeah.
because otherwise we're
well,
doing all this
but
work for nothing.
if it's just a one table, if that's what you said, Ed, I mean, that may not take too long to do, is that right? Or,
Yeah, I gotta send it along to Marla because it involves the conservation properties.
okay, all right. So let's assume that would be done. So that's just a key criteria. Yep. But anyway, yeah, so the park grant, so the idea would be to basically improve Conant Park, focusing on Conant Park only, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I think you can share. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just going to pull up the notes that we took. Can you see my screen?
Coming. Yep.
Okay,
Maybe a
so
little bigger if you can. I don't know, but maybe not.
let's see.
Maybe not. There, that's a
we
little better.
go.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
Okay, so we learned that the reimbursement grant would be 66%. It's like a percentage between 52 and 70% for the grant. So our town is 66%. The total awarded amount would not exceed $100,000. So we could create $150,000 project, and then we would be responsible for $50,000. And it's a reimbursement grant. So I think we put up the money and then receive reimbursement for it.
Right.
One of our main questions was whether or not we should apply for the $100,000 amount versus the $400,000 amount. And she seemed very clear that the communities with higher population density and more environmental justice communities would be much more likely to receive the higher amount. She mentioned Springfield, Chelsea, and Worcester, right? So our demographic and our population's drastically different from those communities. The other thing that she mentioned is that we would have to do some sort of usage report if we were applying for the higher grant amount. One thing that was interesting that I read somewhere in the grant application is that there's a total of $400,000 awarded for all small communities. So that would be up to 4 projects that are each awarded the full amount of $100,000. And so we kind of asked, how competitive is this particular grant? And she said, it didn't really used to be, but it's starting to become more competitive. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we will be awarded the money. She
But
said that,
she
sorry,
also
go
said,
ahead.
though, that- I was gonna say, she also said that whatever we apply for, they wouldn't reduce it. So if we said we wanted 75,000, for example, they would give us, they wouldn't come back and say, well, we're only gonna give you 30,000. So they would go with whatever we asked for.
Yeah.
But they have that set formula of the state, depending on our whatever, however they characterize our community. They've already determined that it's a 66% reimbursement grant.
Yeah, I thought that was good to know. Like, it's not like if we ask for 50, they're going to give us much less.
Right.
So I asked the question, I said, when we applied for the bike path, we mentioned that there was neighboring environmental justice communities because there's some in Westfield and Easthampton, and we have some data on that. And she said, if we wanted to score the points associated with it, reaching out to members of an environmental justice community, that we could do that. We would just have to advertise and go speak with the people in that community to ask what they would like in whatever project we decide to follow up on, but that would help us to score more points. The only thing is if if they're an environmental justice community because of a different language, we would have to advertise in that particular language. So if it was Russian or Ukrainian, we would have to post it in Russian or Ukrainian. She was very clear in the meeting. She said, well, it seems like you guys have some ideas, but you really might want to reach out to the people in town to see what they want. And I referenced the survey that was, Diana thought it might be in the master plan, but I thought I found it in the open space and recreation plan, that the highest number of people go to other communities to look for a splash park. And so a splash park will help you to score a higher number of points because it aligns with climate resiliency, but it's also something that our particular community is looking for. So I thought that would be a good thing to apply for. But again, the question is, she said that we might want to focus on making the park more handicap accessible. Dan said he thought that the parking lots were not lined because the park itself is not handicap accessible. And I'm not sure if anyone else can confirm that information, but there's no pathways, there's no sidewalks that are really allow for people to move about the park if they do have accessibility issues. And so Melissa basically said we might want to consider doing that first. We discussed the idea of having adult fitness equipment or some sort of walking path due to the aging demographic in Southampton. This wouldn't help with points, but it's certainly something that would receive probably a higher level of community support because we have a lot of people who are over 65. We talked about having like different exercise equipment, maybe around the park or in a particular area. But you could always use different money to cover the exercise equipment. And she really seemed to lean towards saying that we should focus on accessibility as a first step. And I was talking to Dan yesterday briefly, just in anticipation of this meeting, and he's going to talk to Sunya. But the other question was, because the splash park is something that our community really wants, and it would help us to score a higher level of points, would it be possible to work on accessibility in some aspects maybe, and include the splash park in an area that was accessible? Or I was thinking, near that, I don't know, near the pickleball courts or near the pavilion, would there be an area for a splash pad that may be accessible?
Yeah, because I think she was saying that we could hold off on the playground equipment until, we could find another grant for the playground equipment.
Yeah,
was kind of her reading on that, I think.
Yeah, she said we could apply for Land and Water Conservation Fund, which we had missed the deadline for. And I looked at that grant last night, and it did seem that that grant money could be applied to improvements for a park, kind of similarly to this one.
Right.
She said a town vote needs to happen by the end of the year, so that could happen at the town meeting in October. She, as I mentioned, said we should apply for the smaller amount. And Dan had put together pictures of the playground equipment to kind of do a presentation to her, but she was on a phone, so we didn't get to share those with her. But she said that they would be submitted with the actual application if we chose to try to replace that equipment. And I don't get the impression that they were that impressed with that idea, at least.
And if we do apply,
I'm gonna leave.
Okay, thanks, Ed.
One note, an October town meeting is very unusual. That was due to COVID. Usually the second or a special town meeting is January or February.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It would have to be before the end of the year, so.
Yeah.
That would not be normal for us.
Okay, good to know.
All right, have a good one, everybody.
All right, thanks, Ed.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a challenge then, in terms of when the town meeting, a special town meeting would happen. That's
so
true.
Maybe we would have to figure out how to get it on the only thing is, she said that you have to, when I went to that presentation, she said you have to share the language with them of what you're going to present at the town meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you were there too,
Right.
before
Yeah.
presenting it at the town meeting, so.
Right, and it's too late. We're doing all that language tonight on our select
Yeah.
board meeting. So there's no way it would make it on for our June meeting. So, and yeah, it is right. I guess the October one happened last year because of COVID. We had to do it outdoors, so we didn't want to make it too late because it was going to be freezing to have to do it outdoors, right? But when we've done it at the school, it has been more January, February timeframe. That's true.
Well, maybe,
So-
I don't know, maybe we could schedule it in November if we're trying to, I
Well-
don't know, is that possible?
I don't know. And we'd have to figure that out. I'm not sure if it's doable. I mean, it costs money to put on a town meeting, and if it was outdoors still, that's a challenge. Whether we'll be indoors and we'll get enough crowd, I don't know. I mean, so many variables still with COVID. It's hard to know what would be there, but so anyway, well, I think at this point in time, we'll just, we'll let Parks talk about what they're thinking about. I mean, all of these are kind of in a talking mode here. So that's all we know at this point in time on these. So all three of these are kind of up in the air with some further questions to get back on. So I think thanks for all that, Kate, and feel free to take or leave any of those things in yellow. And
No, I think they're great.
Before you
I took those grants or those notes kind of after the fact just to get something in
Yeah.
writing before the meeting. So I appreciate the additions.
No, that was great. I thought I sent them last night and I realized I hadn't pushed the button. So sorry about that too. So good. Well, I think that's basically it, guys. We don't have a quorum to look at any minutes, and I think actually I don't know that we have any more minutes to approve yet. So
I have to see if those minutes or the video from, I think it was April 7th, I said I'd draft minutes, but I didn't see the video posted last time I checked.
we did that one already. Those are posted. April 28th.
Then it would be the next meeting that
Yeah,
it's not
April-
done yet.
April 28th is up on the video's up. Yeah.
Okay, I can do those minutes, no problem.
Yeah. So we'll hold off on anything like that for next time. So shall we just sort of think about, I don't think we've got any other business that's important at this point in time. These are three that are all kind of in the juggling routine, but shall we just say that we'll try to meet next Wednesday unless there's some other urgency, which I
Sure.
don't think so. So maybe next Wednesday around the same time, 2:30-ish.
Okay,
All right,
Sounds
good.
good.
We'll send out a note. So thank you guys. I really appreciate your input for, joining in on this and brainstorming. I really do like the idea of trying to look for some funds when there are things that make sense for the town. So any way we can do that, I really do appreciate the technical background as well as your experience with other grants that we've dealt with before or other situations that we know about in town. So thank you much. And if not, I will just make a motion to adjourn. And Kate, if you'll just second it.
second that motion.
All right. So let's call it adjourned at about 3:40. So thank you very, very much again.
Okay.
All right,
See you,
have a good
everybody.
day, everybody. Bye.
Catch you next week. Bye-bye.